Hey, how's it going? Welcome into the Irish NFL show. It is Saturday night, Saturday the 11th of December, 2021, and it's time for week 14 of the Irish NFL show. Michael, we've got Colin Cronin in Cork. You're upside down. I don't even care anymore. I can go down the bottom if you want. Brian O'Leary. Brian, obviously, on Dancing with the Stars. Congratulations, Brian. And,
Thanks very
I'm
much.
joking.
Yeah, Albert, thanks for that tweet today. Very, very
Mark
amusing.
Cockerell. I was gonna make a whole like did it, and I didn't have time or the energy. But Mark, also, we're here.
Evening, lads. Evening.
I'll have to watch that program, Michael.
Yes, we'll have to watch it. I was trying to get a rumor going that Brian O'Leary was going on it. I mean, you never know, boys. Somebody could get the call. We'll see the crack. But week 14 in the NFL season, some great games ahead tomorrow. Folks, you know the drill by now. We're presented by Team Matchbook Betting Exchange and Trust Gaming. And if you're listening on, please feel free to subscribe. And if you're commenting on tonight, you can comment on YouTube or Facebook, and it can go on the screen. If you're commenting on Twitter, thanks very much, and we'll try and read it out as much as we can during the show. I'm going to take a very split second at the start of the show to very quickly talk about some news that happened overnight, or not overnight, on Thursday night. Former Broncos, Jets, Texans wide receiver Demaryius Thomas passed away at the age of 33, and that happened the morning after, well, for us, Thursday Night Football call. And that's terribly sad news for, I guess, any NFL fan. It's been a rough few days.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, DT, especially for Broncos fans, but I think fans around the league will recognize what a talented player he was. I think what it is that he died so young. I mean, he got a man who's 33, was going to be 34 on Christmas Day. And I think probably what adds to it is the upbringing that he had. I don't know if our viewers have seen really wonderful profile of him on ESPN. Grew up. His mother and his grandmother both ended up in prison. He still made it all the way, through college into the NFL. His mother was released, was able to come to see him in 2016. So incredible fortitude, incredible strength to kind of overcome some of the adversity that he faced. And I mean, as a Broncos fan, look, I have fantastic memories, particularly obviously the walk-off win against the Steelers. But I think what you would say about DT is a guy who always showed up, even if he had a drop earlier in the game. If the QB looked his way, he never went hiding. He was a no diva wide receiver. And the stories, I think, this week that you've heard about him have all talked about his kindness. And I think that is a real testament to the man, that is what people remember. People remember the fact that he had so much time for everybody, that he spent so much time with fans, that he spent so much time, with local charities and with community groups and visiting schools and hospitals. So just obviously a really sad, an enormous shock. And I know that obviously Broncos country will be mourning, but we've seen tributes come in from all around the league.
Anybody who hasn't taken time out yet to watch the Rich Eisen piece on Thomas, which was aired yesterday morning, late last night, I suppose, air time, or maybe, and he does an 8-minute piece on him, and he kind of talks about his career and, as Colin alluded, the upbringing he had, and it was heartwarming to watch despite the cruel circumstances that we're dealing with, because he's a fantastic player. And I took time out when we heard the news on Friday morning to actually look at some montage of plays, obviously more so with Denver. But, it's like anything. When a player retires, you remember him as a great player. It's only when you look back and you see some of the stuff in which he did when he got hold of the ball, it was brilliant. And that Rich Eisen piece was heartbreaking in a way, because Rich Eisen even discussed the fact that he met him the year before the Broncos won the Super Bowl, him, Eric Decker, and Thomas. They did his piece together, not knowing that a year later the Broncos would actually go on to win the Super Bowl. But everything you see this week it's not so much about him on the field, it's off the field, and everything he did within the community, not just in Denver, wherever he played. He reached out to various different charity groups trying to help out. So it's a shame, terrible shame. We've had quite a few of these unfortunate situations in the past couple of years where players passing away too soon. So it's dreadful, and it looks like there's going to be a great recognition of him tomorrow at the Denver game, and it's well deserved.
Mark, he was also a Patriot. Sorry, I should have said that. I'm not sure.
No. I mean, like he was a Patriot for a wet weekend, and it was lovely to see Tom Brady giving a kind of a public statement, kind of memorializing the man, as well as obviously Peyton Manning, who played alongside him for years. But he's like one of these players. He will always be a Bronco. I mean, he did have stops in other places, a bit like when the late great Junior Seau passed. He was a Patriot in other places, but he was always a Charger, really. And DT absolutely fits into that mold. The 80-yarder, I think all his fans, that lives in the memory banks. And of course, you'll correct me, Colin, if I'm wrong, but I think he was a first rounder with Tebow that year, both drafted by McDaniels, both believing they were going to be the cornerstone of that Denver side. And obviously he stayed on, but the quarterback maybe didn't. But it's terribly sad. I mean, Michael, I know you're ridiculously young, but he's younger than three of us on this show. A seizure, his career ended too soon. Colin alludes to some of the struggles and the challenges in his private life. Obviously, his mother and grandmother both released by President Obama, actually back in 15 and 16, if I remember correctly. And just everything he accomplished to get to where he had gone, and in circumstances where it's not, he didn't mess up his life. He didn't do something wrong with his health, effectively. I mean, it seems all reports is it's a seizure. It's not like he has taken the wrong path in life and he has ruined his opportunity. So I think Deco put up a comment there as though Billy Joel sang, only the good die young. And Demaryius Thomas certainly fit that category.
Yeah, look, I'll be quick enough here. Like, I mean, from seeing Twitter over the last 24 hours, it's really only hit me maybe today what's happened. You're seeing, it feels like you've lost a member of your family, but obviously you haven't, and his family are obviously going through a hell of a lot worse time than anybody else right now. But it's just, it's very, very hard to sort of process, I think, for fans that are fans maybe the Broncos, other teams. But yeah, obviously Super Bowl champion, 4-time Pro Bowler, second team All-Pro twice. Hearing how Peyton Manning's talked about him, different guys have spoke about him. I'm not going to do him justice in this 30 seconds, but for me, he's obviously a Ring of Famer. I would say he's probably going to be a Hall of Famer at some point for me personally, based upon his stats. He was one of the best, very underrated at the time, but it's good to see, albeit very bittersweet, he's getting the recognition this week that he deserves. But look, we obviously wish his family all the best over the next few weeks, months, and years ahead in a very, very difficult time. And I know a lot of Broncos fans are hurting out there in a minute. It's been a weird few days, but we hope that Demaryius Thomas rests in peace. Died on Thursday at the age of 33. Okay, well, I'm going to try and wrap these colors for the rest of the night, boys, but we're going to get into the action this week. There are 13 games, Brian, yeah? 13.
Well, 13 includes Monday Night Football, but we'll leave that one to the recap show on Monday evening.
Sure, we'll tell you what, we'll do it tonight, and sure, we'll take, I'm joking, right, hold on. Here we go.
We don't take breaks, Mike.
We don't take breaks. I sat for an hour tonight and thought, how can I ensure that these gentlemen at the bottom here are on the screen at the same time? Here it is. So the first game is the Falcons going to the Panthers. Both teams sitting 5-7. I'm really interested to hear, boys, your thoughts ahead of this game, because Colin, I think this is a bit of a toss-up personally.
Yeah, it is. Though, I think a lot of the time in this league, I keep saying it, league is set up for parity. It has a competition commission. It does everything it can to ensure parity. So, a lot of the time that is the case. But I do think that really is the case here. I mean, you have two 5-7 teams. Both of them have strengths. Both of them have weaknesses. This is the Panthers team coming off a bye with a new OC. They've been very reluctant to talk about their previous OC and the way in which maybe he was dispatched. That was interesting. And obviously we got the Cam show, and then Cam gets benched. No CMC. So it will be interesting to see, I think, what the new OC does with the Panthers. They're going up against a Falcons defense that's not good against the pass. I think that's probably been awful against the pass realistically, but okay against the run, kind of middle of the pack against the run. So that will be something. I'm interested also. Russell Gage against Gilmore will be an interesting one, I think, and DJ Moore against Terrell, and obviously we're waiting, for Kyle Pitts to have another one of those games. I think for me, this comes down to the Panthers get sacks, the Falcons give up sacks. It's how much that impacts on Matty Ryan. He took 5 sacks the last time out against the Bucs, but he still threw for almost 300 yards, and we've seen him do that this year. He got hit a number of times against the Saints, but he was still able to stand in there. I'm going to say that I think that Arthur Smith and the Falcons are going to get the win on the road. It is definitely a bit of a coin toss one, but I do think the Falcons are going to have enough, and they're the ones who are going to be sitting at 6 and 7 at the end of this.
Both sides, strange enough, still in the wildcard race, but both sides very much out of form. But the Panthers need us from desperately more. I'd argue the Panthers need us more than the Falcons right now. The last of their 4 games thereafter, 3 are on the road. They've got the toughest schedule in the NFC for the remaining games. So if they don't get this game, certainly it's curtains and the season is over. They've lost 7 of the last 9 games. You look at the Falcons on the flip side. Matt Ryan has only thrown 2 touchdowns in the last 4 games. They've given up an average 25 points per game the last 5 games on defense. It's that difficult to call, and this division has a weird way of the home team loses and the away team takes the road win. Then when it returns, the exact same thing happens. And I'm of the same opinion. I think, despite why it looks like the Panthers should win defensively, they have the better group of players. I think the Falcons will find a way to get over the line. But I think this one will go down to a last second drive, potentially a field goal game.
Yeah, I have to agree vociferously with everything the guys are saying. Like, I mean, this isn't straightforward. This isn't like there's a clear answer in this. Both teams are flawed. Yes, the Panthers have only won 2 of their last 9 games. The Falcons have only won 2 of their last 6 games. And neither exactly are hot to trot. The thing that I'm kind of playing on a little bit here is the Panthers did control the game quite a bit in their first matchup. I mean, it was only 19-13, but they ran for over 200 yards. They had a bit more of a stranglehold on the Falcons. And whilst I don't think their defense, particularly in the secondary, is fantastic, they had enough to control basically Kyle Pitts. Let's face it, with Calvin Ridley, obviously for personal matters, being out of the lineup, they have a limited set of receivers. Basically, Matt Ryan this year has had Kyle Pitts and Cordarrelle Patterson as his 2 weapons, and the Falcons have been duly limited by that. That's not to say the Panthers aren't without their drama. Not only was there the dispatching, as Colin rightly used the correct verb, I think, for the removal of Joe Brady, who somehow Matt Rule wants to run the ball exactly 33 times, and he only ran it 18 times last week. So out you go. Oh, who's he replaced him with? Oh, our running backs coach. Okay, so he's going to want to run the ball. Who's he? Oh, yeah, he's Matt Rule's old buddy. He's known for 20 years, who was his old offensive coordinator at Baylor. Some, methinks, plots were afoot long before, and that was always an inevitable conclusion. But that being said, yes, there's no CMAC. Yes, I don't trust Cam Newton at any point in the existence of man. But I just feel out of the 2 flawed teams, I'll slightly go with the Panthers being at home to complete the sweep over the Falcons. So, yeah, fine margins, but I'll go with the Panthers.
I think what will help the Falcons in this game actually is the fact that Hayden Hurst has now been activated for this game. He's missed the last 5 or 6 games. Tight end. We saw him in London against the Jets, albeit against a poor Jets defense. But what we saw in that game was Hayden Hurst was allowed to take players out of the picture, giving Pitts a little bit extra space. We could see that come to pass in this game. I think it's a significant upgrade for them to have a 2 tight end opportunity in this game.
And one last stat point, which is always amusing. We joke sometimes about the fact Lamar Jackson leads Baltimore in rushing. You've got these running quarterbacks that lead in rushing. Cordarrelle Patterson is really still a wide receiver, but he is the leading rusher on the Falcons this year. probably sums up their play in some respects.
Yeah, for me, the Panthers offense is 29th in yards per game at 308.7, 29th in pass yards per game, 24th in points per game. They're averaging under 20 points a game. Will that get it done against the Falcons? Well, the Falcons defense, boys, is 25th a game in terms of yards per game, and 12 turnovers a game on average, 26th in the league. For me, this is all about Cam Newton. It's a really, really good opportunity for the Panthers to try and get something going. They've played 8 of 12 games against bottom 15 defenses, but you got to ask yourself at some point for Cam Newton, something's got to give. I am taking the Panthers, so it's even. Yeah, all good so far.
Yeah, I think Cordarrelle Patterson is the X factor in this game. He's having a special season, and it's funny because we'll come to it later, but you're beginning to hear other players talk about how they want to be used in the way that the Falcons are using Patterson. And I just find that really interesting. This is a guy who early had high expectations coming into the league, maybe wasn't used in the right way, had continued at it, and all of a sudden kind of has found success. And I think that is it. If the Panthers are able to corral him, yeah, they probably win this. I just think he is what will ultimately get the Falcons over the line.
And Colin, just on that, like the way teams are alluding to that, this is what we want from other players, or other players looking for that type of exposure. The Falcons kind of fell into that situation. It wasn't planned. It was like they ran out of running backs. They got injuries. Okay, we'll have a go at running back, and all of a sudden it's worked. And now he's their standout player this season.
Absolutely. The Ravens go up against the Browns. That game is in Cleveland at First Energy Stadium. Browns 6-6, Ravens 8-4. 2 games off the Browns are, Colin, but Baker Mayfield's had a rough few weeks.
Yeah, a rough season, I would say, going back. I mean, we talked about him early in the year and that pick that he threw right at the end of the game where he was trying to force it too much. And it feels a little bit like that's what Baker's been doing all season, right? Because he's seen the other QBs get their big contracts. He didn't get the big contract. The Browns kind of sat in their hands. I think that's quite telling that they did that they wanted to see more. And I think he's tried to force it a little bit. It hasn't worked. And, all of a sudden he's getting chippy with the fans. The Browns have undoubtedly, at times been really impacted by injuries, but they're going up against a Ravens team that can equally point to the injury side of things. This is one, again, is a bit like Thursday night's game where I think either of these teams could win this. There are reasons why the Browns can, there are reasons why the Ravens can. But ultimately, for me, Lamar threw 4 interceptions the last time these sides met just a couple of weeks ago, and the Browns still couldn't get it done. Now, when the opposing QB throws you the ball 4 times and you still can't get it done, that to me, is not a good omen. Granted, though, Myles Garrett, we saw Lamar get sacked 7 times against the Steelers, franchise record. So it could be a great day for Myles Garrett. But ultimately, I'm going to say that John Harbaugh is going to have the Ravens up for it. They lost, when they went into Pittsburgh. They won't want to have a second loss on the road. I think that the Ravens will have enough to do this, and they go to 9-4, and then there'll be some serious soul searching to do in Cleveland.
Yeah, with that game last week, Jackson is now up to 37 sacks this season, the worst he's had of all his careers in the league. The Ravens offense just can't seem to get it going 4 games in a row now. They've not gone beyond 20 points, but they're going up against the Browns team offensively who have not scored over 20 points in 6 games this season. They're banged up on the offensive line. Conklin is out. Chubb has struggled in games against the Ravens. I think he's averaging around 53 yards, so he's been their marquee player. But, in a lot of games, they've been heavily reliant on Chubb, Hunt, and that's what gets them over the line because it certainly isn't Baker Mayfield. I'm with Colin on this. Despite the injuries, I could see it being a really close game, a low-scoring game, quite similar to the one we saw a few weeks ago. Maybe not so much in terms of interceptions, But I think the Ravens find a way to get it over the line. They know essentially this is a win scenario that will get them towards the division. So for me, the Ravens just...
Boys, it's like we've got a wonderful bit of deja vu this week because we've actually had 3 games that fall into almost the identical pattern. There are 3 games with division-leading teams, all on 8 and 4, playing against their intra-division rivals who are 6 and 6. And the 6 and 6 teams are desperate. If they want to make the playoffs in a really tight competitive wildcard races, or maybe even to poach that division title the last gasp, they've really got to win this weekend. And we're going to see 3 of them. This is the first one, but to me, this is actually probably the most clear cut of any of them. The reality for me is, and for anybody who saw our show, the Thursday TNF Club on Thursday, saw this from Colin, from our Steelers reporter, who just summed it up really nicely when he said, let's be honest, guys, Baker Mayfield sucks. And there's a lot of reasons and a lot of excuses, and maybe his health isn't the best, but certainly over the last number of weeks, you cannot argue with that succinct a statement. Both teams are going to be dealing with losses. Marlon Humphrey is now out for the season, yet another IR person from the Ravens. David Ngoko, though, who's been leading the Browns in receiving, is out on the COVID list as well. So that's a big loss from them from the tight end position, one of the probably top tier tight ends in the league. There's a lot about Nick Chubb, and of course the Browns could win this game and control it. And if Myles Garrett does get the better of Alejandro Villanueva and sack Lamar Jackson a few times, like the Steelers did to the Ravens only last week, the Browns could have a chance. But to me, I just can't see it. I don't trust the Ravens. Sorry, I don't trust the Browns. I do trust the Ravens to bounce back from a very disappointing game against the Steelers, and therefore I'll put the Ravens to go 9 and 4.
Yeah, last week was very disappointing for Baltimore. When you've got a player of Lamar Jackson's capabilities and you go to Pittsburgh and you only score that amount of points, it's not good enough. It was great entertainment from a neutral's point of view, seeing him go for 2. I really enjoyed it. Fantasy-wise, not so much, but for me, I think the X factor in this game isn't going to be Nick Chubb or that Browns running game. It's actually going to be Devonta Freeman and that mix of Ravens wide receivers, Marquise Brown, but then also Mark Andrews. I can see this game being over relatively early enough. I think I can't back the Browns anymore. I don't see how Baker Mayfield's going to perform, and he probably will now. 1 touchdown last week, 247 yards. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt are his guys, but the reality is, will this team turn up on Sunday? I don't think so. And I think the Ravens will push to go to 9 and 4 before they welcome the Packers in Baltimore next Sunday.
I do. I think Baker Mayfield sucks is a little bit harsh. I think whether Baker Mayfield is a franchise QB is certainly a question. I think though there is clearly something wrong in Cleveland. Everyone seems to run to their parents to have a go, and we've now obviously seen it with Hunt as well. I mean, that is, we're going to get into the moving from college into the NFL later and how difficult that transition can be. But you're big boys. If you have something to say and if you've got criticism, come out and say it yourself. Don't go into your agent or your dad and get him to do it. Just come out and say it. And I think that definitely undermines the locker room and undermines cohesion. And that certainly hasn't helped the Browns this year.
Yeah, and one other thing about the Browns, I mean, you're talking about running the football, Colin, and everything, and sorry, and just what's going on there generally. I meant to bring this up at the start, actually, because, Michael, you alluded to Pat McAfee on the TNF Club and the big deal, and I hadn't actually seen the news from Pat McAfee, so I hadn't called up the clip that he announced all the things, and I just wanted to play something for you guys of something that came out from that announcement I thought was really special. Damn it. 1 second. Don't know if you heard this on Thursday.
Remember, I have the button mark to kick you out of here.
I'm taking the Steelers on the over. I'm taking the Steelers on the under, and I'm taking the Steelers plus 3.5 tonight. I don't think any way in which the Vikings win this game, boys, tonight. I can't see. I have to watch my Lions game, and I have to put my whole fantasy.
Hold on. Let's just see if we can. There we go. Okay, he's done. Just before before I respond, Davis says shocks the world tomorrow. Dalvin Cook, well done. Like, of course I embarrassed myself. It's fine. It's gone. I did say lock of the week as well, didn't I? So I can't even use that tonight. But
Michael, sorry, what was the comment that came in there? Who's going to shock?
Saying Cleveland shocks the world tomorrow. Go Browns. That's from Ed Davis.
See, I don't think it's a shock if they win. That's the thing. I just think it's one of those situations where I think we're all kind of in a general consensus that the Ravens are a more experienced team, and despite injuries, they'll find a way to get it over the line. That's I'm seeing it differently.
Yeah, no, I would agree, Brian. Absolutely, it's that I just think just because they need it and because of the performance against the Steelers, but the Browns they're not a bad side, and particularly on the defensive side of things, they're a serious or they can be a serious defense. We've seen them perform at times. So look, let's see. It's definitely one of those coin toss games, I think.
It's possible. It's not. You wouldn't say like there's no way you can see them winning this game.
Different game. I'm just sitting here in silence now, just hoping everyone listening to the podcast. The next game, while Mark goes back into home base or whatever it's called in the South, Woody's DIY and gets a shovel for digging his own grave, is the Seahawks against the Texans. The Texans are 2-10, and the Seahawks are 4-8. Seattle beat San Francisco 30-23 last week, and in doing so has relegated me to last place in the fantasy league. It's a big day tomorrow, Colin. You better bring your A game. Well done on Thursday. But yeah, what's your thoughts, Colin? It should be an interesting game.
Look, I mean, I talked about it before the season started. I've talked about it over the course of the season. The Texans franchise is a joke. The Texan fans are great, but the franchise is a joke. And tomorrow we see yet another starting QB. So there you go, Mark. You told us Trod Taylor was going to steady the ship. No, not going to see out the season. It's going to be Davis Mills. And the guy that they cut earlier this week has already been picked up by the Titans. We might talk about Vrabel's press conference in a little bit, but it's telling that you cut him and within 24 hours. I thought I looked like an astronaut, so I'll take an NFL head coach. Thanks very much, Luke. Where do you start? The Texans are a rabble. They're a shambles. Pick any Eamon Dunphy word you want to use, and it would all apply to this franchise. We talked about it with Andrew on Thursday night. It's awful. It's awful for fans, and it's awful for the league that this has been allowed to continue. What this is we get to see where Russell Wilson is at. He gets to air it out against a Texans team that have struggled on, defending the run, particularly defending the run, but defending the pass as well. And I mean, it should be a Seahawks victory as long as they show up and as long as Russell Wilson plays well, and I imagine he will. So yeah, I'm going with the Seahawks on this one.
When this game is over, we're not going to have any answers to any situations in terms of what's going to happen with Seattle going forward, what's going to happen with the Texans going forward. Seattle have lost 6 of the last 8 games. Wilson last week played well. Called it out last week in terms of their record against the 49ers and how dominant they've been. That's a huge game for their fans, and we've seen it in the past where teams haven't had a good season but always find a way to beat their rivals. So it didn't come as a surprise that they did win that game. Like, the Seattle struggling offensively last week. Look, Metcalf hasn't had a game 60 yards plus for the last 5 games. He's struggled. Wilson's been a bit erratic. People continue to say it's the injury. We've had the story this week that he's selected his 3, favorite locations where he's going to play next season. He then backtracks on that story. Look, the substance of where the story came from, the source probably didn't even, wasn't even worth even discussing. But we're now discussing things for next season because the reality is Seahawks season is over. For the Texans, it's just a case of get the season over with and, get to the Deshaun Watson situation over with, and then they move on from there. Seahawks to win won't be a pretty game. What else can you say?
Yeah, I mean, the problem for the Texans is they need the probably the next 2 or 3 seasons to be over with as well, Brian, before they're getting anything in that roster back into shape. Look, I mean, this is a dire game in many respects. If you look at overall ranking on offense and defense in terms of yards allowed and conceded and acquired, the Seahawks are 31st in both offense and defense, right? The Texans make it even worse, though, because if you look at their offense, they're 32nd overall, 32nd in the run, 31st in pass, and 32nd in scoring. It is abysmal in relation to what they've been putting on the field and delivering. And we remember fondly Colum's famous or infamous rant at the Aviva at the start of the season, which was very well delivered. But the Texans are a lucky 2-10. Let's be honest about it. They are lucky to be at 2. They are not going to add another win tomorrow. Sorry, it's going to be the Seahawks.
Yes, Brian, the MLS Cup is going to extra time because the Portland Timbers scored in the final seconds. I have that up as well. You're talking about Eamon Dunphy, Colin. This perfectly sums up the Houston Texans.
The bluffers, the spoofers, the Muppets. And there's a lot of them around.
I was going to use It's a Kip, but I thought that was a better one to use.
There are a lot of them around, and they're all in the Texans front office.
I'll tell you who does. Anyway, here.
I mean, what are you talking about? I missed that video. I haven't seen it in a while.
Excuse Nick Caserio for that one. Jack East, to be fair enough, but Nick Caserio deserves a bit more time than that.
I'm going to take the Seahawks, right? But hold on. This is a 4-8 football team. This team is non-special. Russell Wilson, boys, is halfway out. He's halfway down the M1. He could care less. For some reason, last week they put in a performance, but at the same time, the 49ers were piss poor. So I'm gonna take the Seahawks, but I'm taking them lightly here, boys. Like this is a 4-8 football team, and this is the guy that apparently wants out the door, and it's week 14. I don't know.
Michael, we know what he put a performance in last week, because it's all about beating a close rival. It's not to save the season.
It's just, I just look. There's obviously a lot of Seahawks fans, both in NI and in the Republic, that actually listen to the show and watch the show, and it just hasn't been a good season for them. I mean, I think they'll come back next year. I'm yet to be convinced that Russell Wilson will leave Seattle, to be honest with you. Why would he want to go to Denver or New York? But that's a conversation for a different show. At a different time. Pete Carroll might not be there.
Denver and New York have first-round picks.
I'm thinking like food, airports, etc. I'm joking. I'd love him in Denver, but sure. Look, it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, here, boys. Full house so far. Look at this. We've got Ding, Dong, and now we've got this. This is a nice game. The Raiders are 6-6 going up against the Chiefs. This game is in Arrowhead Stadium, or they now call it Geha Field, because they sold their soul down in KC. Colin, who have you got in Missouri?
I wish that all the stadiums still held their old names and didn't sell out like that, but unfortunately the Broncos are the same, so can't say too much about the Chiefs on that one. Chiefs 5 straight wins and held their opponents under 20 points in each of those. Where Patrick Mahomes probably had his best game of the season was against the Raiders, because the Raiders decided that they weren't going to change their defensive scheme. They didn't need to, right? Because they were going to be good enough to contain Patrick Mahomes. And instead of playing too high safety, which has frustrated the hell out of Mahomes over the course of the season, and he's admitted that he hates it. He hates having to go underneath. He loves to take shots. Well, the Raiders are going to very likely allow him to do that again. If they don't learn lessons, surely you've got to ask questions of their coaching staff, and if they don't change anything, because if they don't, Patrick Mahomes will take advantage of it. The blueprint is there. You know how to at least slow him down. Now you have to be able to take advantage of it, and the Broncos couldn't do that. But you know how to slow him down. Will the Raiders do that? I don't think they will. I just don't think they're going to learn the lesson. And I don't know if in Josh Jacobs alone, they have the ground game to attack the Chiefs, which is another way that you definitely can get at them, even with the defense that they currently have. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs to win this, because I just don't think the Raiders will learn their lessons, and the Chiefs are going to win 6 straight on the bounce for me.
That game which Colin was discussing is obviously the game in week 12 where the Raiders played the Chiefs, and the Raiders only scored 14 points in that game. And Chiefs, 5 games in a row now where they haven't allowed 17 or more points. They're averaging 11 points a game now since week 8 in here defensively. They completely turned it around. When we previewed last week's game, I selected them because I felt defensively they seem to have got it right, and I can't see it any different in this game. And Waller's being confirmed as absent from this game, which is a huge loss for the Raiders. Without him, we saw it last week, they became quite one-dimensional. They didn't really have the players there to do it offensively. They are up and down, it wouldn't surprise me if they came out in a strong game. But for me, Chiefs are going to get this game over the line and move on. And as we touched on when we were in London doing that show on the Saturday night, once the Chargers were start the season firing, I think inevitably what would happen, the Chiefs would find a way to get it right. We're just not used to it in the sense that it's not the offense that's getting it right, but it's the defense.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest about it. The Chiefs are on a 5-game winning streak, but there's only one of those games that they've really looked efficient, comfortable, like it's been a comfortable win. I mean, the downside for the Raiders is one of those that game was the one they won 41-14 against the Raiders. In all the other games, you could say they looked sporadic, stop-start. They were maybe there for the taking if the other team had got their act together, Broncos. But the reality was that this isn't a consistent machine, other than, as you guys have alluded to, the defense, which is starting to get things together. They go up now against the Raiders team, who have actually scored 16 points or less in 6 of their games this season. The only team done worse than that is the Houston Texans. That's not exactly the offensive output you want or expect to see from the Las Vegas Raiders. And in fact, they've got a great stat that will directly relate to if they win this game or not. They are 6-0 when Derek Carr, David, his older brother, Derek Carr throws for 300 or more yards. They are 0-6 when he doesn't. So have a look at what his yardage total is on the bookies this weekend. Might be an interesting one to look at. For me, the Chiefs defense will keep them in check again. They won't be able to fix all the wrongs of that 41 points they gave up only a few weeks ago. And the Chiefs go marching on, staying as they need to just ahead of the Chargers, because the Chargers are only 1 game back in that division. So it's still very important the pressure is on them, even though the Raiders are in almost last chance saloon at this stage.
254, Mark. That's the line on Derek Carr.
There you go.
5 games left in the AFC West, 2 games out, and they all have to play each other. It's maybe next week is that point, but yes, I know what you mean. Look, the situation with the Chiefs, I have considered the Chiefs. I didn't think they'd win last week based upon the way the team is collectively played, both offensively and defensively. They shouldn't have beaten the Giants. They shouldn't have beaten the Cowboys. They shouldn't have beaten the Broncos last week. But the reality is they did. Well, they should have beaten the Broncos. The Broncos are crap. But they did. And the reason that I'm picking the Chiefs this week is because maybe if I pick them, they'll lose. I don't know anymore. That's the point I'm at now, unfortunately. But I'll say this because there's been a lot of talk this year about Derek Carr on this show from a number of people, including myself. I understand about Darren Waller, but he still has Hunter Renfrow and he still has Brian Edwards, and he still has, a lot on that offense and defense. A team which, albeit lost to Washington last week, a team that can go out and can score points. If they can score over 24 points in Arrowhead tomorrow, they will win the game. Do I think they will? No. But don't be surprised if they do. And I'm covering myself there, but I think I'll stick with the Chiefs.
Oh, Derek Carr could have a great game tomorrow. There's no pressure. There's no expectation. Derek Carr loves that. Oh, he's fantastic. When there's no pressure on, Derek Carr is the business. When he's got to go out and do it, prove himself, and he's expected to get the win, that's when Derek Carr struggles. And in cold weather, at least according to Jack Del Rio.
Yeah. Sorry, Mark. Brian, go
Brian Edwards was never supposed to be a number one receiver. He was brought in the third round of that draft to complement the Ruggs number one pick. And for large parts of the period when they were together, it was working. Obviously, we know what's happened with that situation. They've had no proper real deep ball threat since Ruggs has gone. And that's the offense to a certain extent has completely had to re-script and look at something different, and it's not there for them.
Yeah.
And forgive me if I'm wrong, but this is in Arrowhead, correct? So this is the one game of the 8-4 and 6-6 teams matchup, where the 6-6 team really, really needs it, where that team is on the road. So they're going to Arrowhead for this as well, which is not a warm and friendly environment for the Raiders. I think the only time Carr has beaten the Chiefs, and definitely in the last 4 or 5 years, is that game where they won 40-32 in a complete shootout last season. So, do I see him putting up that type of points against the Chiefs defense the way it's performed the last few weeks? Absolutely not.
Do you see Mahomes putting up that many points?
No, I don't actually.
Yeah.
I don't.
So that's why I think this game's intriguing. Like it genuinely is. Like they could both bounce off each other. Chiefs.
The Raiders defense is not at the level of the Chiefs defense.
It's not by any given Sunday, and the Chiefs have not been special on the offense side of the ball. If they stop Kelsey, they have a chance, I think. But I still think the Chiefs.
But Michael, they were special when they played the Raiders defense last. That's the thing. I just don't think it's a good matchup for them.
Time will tell. Snead for the Chiefs is out after the death of his brother. Our thoughts are with him and his family at the minute. It's very difficult for him. And obviously the Chiefs as well. But it's going to be an interesting game, lads. I think that game's on Game Pass tomorrow. And if the Raiders were to win, that completely blows the whole division open because the Chargers are playing as well, and obviously the Broncos are. So we'll see what happens up that down the stretch. The Saints are playing the Jets tomorrow. The Saints are 5-7. The Jets are 3-9. The game is in New York. Now, you're going to tell me the why's up here, right? But there's actually a game going on right now in that stadium, and the field looks just atrocious. Actually, maybe it's my TV picture, but disgraceful, boys. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but I know they do this all the time. But Colin, the field is awful looking. It might be a factor tomorrow.
If it is the case that it's a factor, I'd wager Sean Payton will find a way to make it in his favor, because that's just the kind of coach that he is. Look, the Jets, it's been just a very frustrating season, I think. And I actually don't think that Mosley going up the other day and making the comments that he made help in any way. He claimed that Fletcher Cox wouldn't shake hands, and Fletcher Cox put up a photograph disproving that. Now, players, there's a way you can motivate, you can criticize, and players will generally take it if it's fair enough. But if you go out and you say something untrue against another player, that tends to get the backs of the rest of the league up. So that might be something to keep an eye on. I did actually go back and forth on this for over the course of the week, though, because Taysom Hill in at QB, 4 interceptions, and he hurt his middle finger. The one that Stink likes to show the Jets in that video that he made with his Super Bowl ring. But apparently Hill was able to practice fully this week. I actually think you'll probably see him run the ball more, because if he's going to throw 4 interceptions, you'd prefer to see him running, and Kamara should be back. For the Jets, I mean, look, torn apart by the Eagles. It's really just seeing what can they develop Zach Wilson. He was good in the first half last week. Actually, 18 points was their best total this season in a first half, but disappeared in the second. It's also probably Lattimore versus Elijah Moore will be an interesting one in this game. But I've got the Saints winning this one. They've much more at stake. They have a more savvy and crafty head coach, and in Alvin Kamara, they probably have the best player on the field.
Yeah, I think people have been doing a disservice to the Saints, in particular that game last week against the Cowboys. So those 4 interceptions, 3 of them came after he got the injury. So I think with 5 minutes to go in the third quarter, they were already down by 1 score. He picked up that injury and he threw into 3 interceptions thereafter. Up to that point, he had a really efficient game. He's not going to set the world alight, throwing it, 'cause that's not his style. But he had played well. He was running on that Cowboys defense, and the defense for the Saints also played well. I mean, they kept the team in the game for a long time. People are getting carried away this week, saying, the Jets are going to win because the Saints have been a bit erratic and they lost 5 games in a row. Give me Sean Payton any day. Taysom Hill or no Taysom Hill. The Saints will win this game comfortably. And Elijah Moore is out as well. Sorry, Mark, who's been their standout wide receiver, second round pick this year. He's not going to play either, which is a big loss.
Well, there goes the most interesting thing I was looking forward to in the entire game.
All right, there you go. Sorry, Colin. Push your bubble down that one.
Elijah Moore versus Lattimore or something, was it? Or I can imagine.
Game time decision, not looking good. That's what they're saying.
But there were reports coming out of the Jets. Was it just last week or was it 2 weeks ago that our dear friend Mike White had become such a cult figure within the locker room that actually the players were chanting his name when he would walk in and were, geeing him up generally. And the idea that they're chanting the name of a backup quarterback every time he walks in the room when you've got your first round, second overall pick, who looks about 12 again, of course, sitting there, who probably needs a bit of a confidence booster, needs to feel like the team's behind him. Look, even if the reports aren't fully true or things like that, it's just the typical kind of Jets being Jets noise that continually surrounds this team. And it always seems to be dysfunctional one way or the other. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would much rather a return to the Rex Ryan Jets, where they weren't just entertaining off the field, but they're actually entertaining on the field. They made back-to-back AFC Championship games. It was a rivalry worthwhile having. You love to hate them, but you also have to hate to love them at times. But these days, it's just been almost like a death spiral. I can't say that we have seen enough this year to think that Zach Wilson is the long-term solution. But interestingly, on the other side of the ball, do you think that Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston are the long-term solution for the Saints? I can certainly say I don't think so on either count. Although the Saints seems pretty wedded to Hill still as being an option, gadget, interesting character to have around to run gadget plays. And he has had a 100-yard rushing game, obviously, this season already. Guys, it's a 5-game losing streak for the Saints. It's not like it's just been a blip in the ocean. I can make a justifiable case for the Jets to win this game, but then I remind myself it's the Jets, so therefore I'm going to go for the Saints to win this game.
A comment there from Can You Handle the Truth? The guy's Twitter name's called. Thank you very much for the comment. Love you Irish guys talking NFL awesome. Thank you very much for the support. Thanks to everybody for support tonight, both on Twitter, YouTube, and on Facebook. And we'll have the podcast on tonight whenever Brian gets it uploaded. While I've wasted time, I'm picking the Saints. Alvin Kamara, the Jets, Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson is like me, a bit slimmer, a bit more bulked up, 5-6 years younger. Granted, a bit more younger than that. Yeah, I'm only joking. It's been a rough year for him. I'm sure he'll pick it up.
We didn't even touch on the fact that Alvin Kamara is actually back for this game, and he's supposed to be 100%. He was touch and go last week leading into that Cowboys game, and he's expected to be back and ready to go.
I think Colin did say Alvin Kamara will be on the field, the best player on either side of the field.
The thing that I'm concerned about is who has Alvin Kamara in our fantasy league in the week that I have to win. I'll check that out.
Would that be Colin, who you're playing against this week, Michael?
I'm not playing against Colin. I actually, before we go into the whole fantasy competition, I need Colin to win this week.
Colin starts with a minimum of 100 points a week he does before he even plays again.
Folks, Colin got 75 points in a non-PPR league on Thursday Night Football. Oh, don't worry. The guy I'm up against has got Lamar Jackson, Ezekiel Elliott, and Alvin Kamara. That's just...
Michael, if you lose in this weekend, you're gone. You've missed the
Same with you, Brian. Same with you.
No,
so,
no, I'm not.
Oh, don't you worry. If I lose, the guy I'm playing has got a 5-8 record. I've done enough.
If Colin wins, I'm in the playoffs no matter what. Keep it going, Colin. For this week only.
As the commissioner, I'm going to change the rules for another week. I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to. What are we? Week 14. Let's have the playoffs in week 16. Do you know what? I'm going to do it right now. I'll fix that up. While we do that, I'm actually going to do that. While we do that, let's quickly go through the Jaguars against the Titans. Titans come off a bye week. Colin, Mike Vrabel yesterday lost it in the press conference, but I don't want to go into too much. I like Mike Vrabel. I think he's good crack, but he looked like a man highly, highly stressed. And I actually was concerned. He looked really like he needs February to come very quickly.
Yeah, and he probably, I mean, we probably would have been talking about that. Now, at the same time, he did say, I'm not going to answer any questions on Cunningham until next week. And then he proceeded to get 3 questions and kind of 3 strikes and you're out. He was out. But the story around this game changed in, about 2.5 hours ago. Tom Pelissero released that story. And my opening line of my notes is, Urban Meyer's tenure continues to underwhelm. Well, boy, is that an understatement. What an utter abject, I won't swear, but utter just disaster. They had the opportunity to fire him earlier in the season. They decided not to do it. We knew from the off, from the fact that he employed a racist, and then it was pointed out that the guy was racist, so he had to sack the racist for being racist. And all of that didn't raise red flags around Urban Meyer when he had the prom queen grind up on him. That didn't raise enough flags around Urban Meyer. When he lied about Robinson last week and blamed it all on the coach, that didn't raise enough flags. The only reason Robinson came back in the game, going by the accounts, are the fact that Trevor Lawrence went down to him and said, you need to put our best player back in the game. We know that in London, when they finally got their win, it wasn't Urban Meyer who gave out the game balls. It was Marvin Jones who did it, who apparently had such a blazing row with Meyer because Meyer was so condescending and didn't treat him like an adult that he walked out of the facility. And it had to be the assistant coaches, who Meyer doesn't rate and apparently tells them they're all losers, had to go to retrieve him and convince him to come back. So the Urban Meyer experiment has been an abject failure, which isn't a surprise given how he treats them. And again, it's the NFL. And outside of Cleveland, most of these players are big boys who have their pants on and expect to be treated with respect. Urban Meyer doesn't do that. The results speak for themselves. We'll get to the Bills later on, but if I'm the Bills, given everything that's going on, that you lost to this shower, would be extremely worrying. And if you're the NFL and you're watching what's going on in Houston and you're watching what's repeatedly year after year going on in Jacksonville, just be embarrassed. The Titans are winning this.
So you touched on quite a few things there, Colin. So I'm just going to back up some of the things you spoke about. That London situation in terms of the game ball being handed out, we touched on the show at the time. In fact, if you were to watch the press conference in which he did, the interview in which he did, in terms of the locker room speech, half the players weren't even listening to him; they were on their phones. It was, it was a farce. And then since London, offensively, they did not score more than 17 points in any game, which again goes to show what a poor situation they have there. And when we were in London the first week, we were actually discussing the aftermath of that unfortunate situation where he didn't go back after the game in Cincinnati. Instead, he went off and enjoyed himself, and we won't speak too much about that. But on that weekend, they were playing the Titans, and I selected the Jags, so I thought the players would rally around the head coach and they'd win. The Titans blew them out. Well, the Titans are going to blow them out this time round. I'm not going to be this silly the second time round. And Julio Jones coming back probably had a good time for the Titans because they really need to get players back on offense. Titans to win. It's not about the game itself. It's more about the fiasco that comes with this team. And it looks like he's finding a way to get himself out of there very quickly. Fortunately for him, all the head coaching positions in the college game are gone because a lot of people felt he would slip back into an LSU or somewhere else and he would just continue doing what he's done for the past few years. Not to be, but it looks of it.
Leaders build people up, managers pull people down, as the old adage in relation to it. But I mean, I think, guys, you're being very, very harsh on Urban Meyer. You've got to look at his achievements that he's received this year already. He's already improved the Jacksonville winning percentage by 100%. Like, I mean, they win 100% more games than they won last year. Got to celebrate his wins and his achievements in that regard. And Brian, you alluded to the fact that the offense hasn't been performing with the under 17 points, but Urban Meyer's personal scoring average has been remarkably pure this year and very positive, especially in the incident in Ohio, as you were alluding to. So, we can't focus just on the negatives for him. There's definitely positives in his performance this year. All jokes aside, the Titans I alluded to last week are probably the easiest run-in of any of the contenders for the number 1 seed. They've won game against a team with a winning record, or they did have a winning record, which was the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're now exactly at 500. So it's not exactly though they're facing Murderers Row back in the old 1933 Yankees. This is a cakewalk. They got a few more cakewalks coming up. Jones coming back is big. The question is all going to depend on when could Derrick Henry potentially return in the playoffs. Really is going to be the defining factor for their season. So Titans for me as well.
So, Michael, 5 minutes, one final point. If we had a scenario during the season where we said, this is a cakewalk, and we're all stunned on Monday where the other team goes and wins the game, it won't happen for the Titans because they've already lost to the Texans. So I think they will quickly realize, let's not go out there and be complacent in this game.
Yeah, I mean, teams sitting 8-4, they've had some struggles with injuries on both sides of the ball, some struggles in performances over the last few weeks. 8-4, great record. They'll beat the Jaguars. I'm not saying don't show up if you're going to Tennessee tomorrow, but go have a bit of crack, have a beer, enjoy the game, listen to some country music, bit of Garth Brooks, whatever you want to do. 9-4.
That's the Jags sideline, Michael.
It is. Titans. I said Texans. 9-4 Titans. Potentially Monday morning, a chance to almost take that mid-December and go for the final month and try and get another couple of wins. And Titans should be looking at the rest of their schedule going, if we're going to win it, we have to beat these teams. So I'm excited to see where that Titans team can go. It's been a hell of a season where teams have come up, teams have went down. Can the Titans rise in the last month? Let's see what happens. Okay. Cowboys, WFT. This is a great game because WFT is only 2 games out of the NFC East. And a win against the Cowboys will put them 1 behind with 4 to go. Lovely matchup, Colin. This game is in FedEx Field. Is it called FedEx Field?
I think this is a really interesting game. Though another interesting ownership situation with the league, and make your mind up on how they handle those ownership situations and sweep things under the carpet or not. But these are 2 teams who, obviously the Cowboys started off really hot, but they haven't been since, and Taysom Hill's injury probably got him out of jail last week. I think it's going to be, there'll be plenty of needle, I think, in this game. The Cowboys, their offense was so hot initially, obviously, but we have not seen that recently. I would have concerns with Mike McCarthy and his leadership style. I think guaranteeing a win is not the way to go about things. I think it's very easy for this Washington football team to motivate their players on the back of that. This is also a Washington football team, lest we forget, who got the win against the Panthers because Cam had done his I'm back business and they wanted to show him up for that. They do have injuries. It should be really interesting, but the Cowboys also have injuries and that could impact on their run game. Neither of their running backs are fit. The other thing about this Washington team is they've really leaned into Gibson in their winning run. So in the last 4 games, which they've won, he is second only to my MVP of the season to this point. Things can change over the home straight, but Jonathan Taylor. And the fact that they've leaned into Gibson and they have been so successful, I think, is telling. Gibson was one of the players who talked about earlier, who said that they would like to be used in a kind of Cordell Patterson type manner. There's a guy playing injured as well, and yet he's still showing up. I think this is a really tough Washington team. I think it's a Washington team who likes to have a point to prove. I think it's a Washington team that prefers not to be favorites. And I think the fact that they have done what they've done without Chase Young and without Montez Sweat, who now has COVID, is telling. I think it's a team that comes together and really wants to prove a point. So I don't think Mike McCarthy helped himself. Can the Cowboys win this? Absolutely. But I'm going to go the Washington football team and make the NFC East really, really interesting.
I might just do this every week from now on. Brian, you pick up Washington, Brian, yeah? Washington by how much, Brian? 14, 15, 16, 18, 21, 34?
Well, Collins made some valid points around Elliott and Pollard and their injury concerns, and Elliott hasn't ran for over 50 yards in 4 games in a row now. He's struggling. He could have had a up and down season. He started like that. He got himself going. He's kind of fallen back a little, and he's had toe injuries. This game for the offense of the Cowboys, the first game they had Lamb, Cooper and Gallup, is it? Yeah. All of them on the pitch at the same time. They haven't had that for quite some time. So he's got all his players back at his disposal. And they've also got players back on defense, such as Randy Gregory coming back, which will also help Micah Parsons in terms of you got a double team on him. Gregory's had a great season. I find it hard to believe that as good as Taylor Heinicke has been, can they match up, drive for drive with the Cowboys and keep with them scoring wise? So I can't say it. And for the Cowboys, they know if they win this game, they essentially are in the playoffs. They win the division because it's too much at this stage of the season to pull that back. So for me, I'm going against Colin. I think the Cowboys will find a way to win.
Michael, what was Fred's comment there? Can you put that back up again?
Absolutely. Let me just go on the chat and click it on. Personally, I don't think McCarthy is a fit for Dallas. He's talking about Mick, Big Mick.
He might be, but like Fred, I could have told you that 2 years ago that McCarthy isn't a fit for Dallas and isn't going to be a fit for the style of
If Mick McCarthy came in, he'd find the best player and he'd get rid of him.
Can I say something very quickly?
Flashback.
Coach McCarthy looks like a man that trains the under 10s out the back on a Saturday morning.
He does. He looks like a junior B coach. And he acts like a junior B coach, and he has got the Tyrone footballers or the Limerick hurlers, and he's not. I'm totally in agreement with Fred. He's not up to it.
Let's not go as far as Limerick. I'll say Derry maybe.
That's very unfair, guys. Whatever way he looks, he's won a Super Bowl.
I'm taking the piss. Of course, he seems like a nice guy as well.
They're going to have a home playoff game. And this team could make a run at it. Now, do I think they're going to go Super Bowl? No. Do I think they'll be in the divisional round? Very likely. So, from a guy that last year was struggling and bouncing hot water melons off walls to get the guys motivated the night before Minnesota to win a division and have a great chance in the playoffs. It doesn't matter what he looks like.
I will say this, guys, on the game. I mean, Washington have a remarkable opportunity to do something for 2 years in a row. Last year, they were 2-6, went on a run, and won the NFC East. This year, they've been 2-6. They've got the opportunity somehow, some way, to potentially go on a run and take the NFC East. They do have to play the Cowboys twice. And these two teams, and many, obviously, in the NFC East, you're in a weird kind of round robin situation. Washington has 5 games left. They're all intra-division. Cowboys have 4 or 5 games left that are intra-division. The opportunity for a big swing actually does exist here. And you have to look at what the Washington team puts together in the last 4 weeks, or the 4 games they won. Running consistently behind Gibson, getting the right kind of pressure and performance from their offensive line. Heinicke not, he's a little bit of sparkle dust there. There's a bit of Minshew or a bit of Fitzmagic there kind of in how he plays his game. And not messing it up and throwing away as they did do on their 4-game losing streak. So there's definitely a bit of momentum from Washington there, and they can put the pressure on. But realistically, the Cowboys, other than the running back, are starting to get healthy at the right point in the season. They're getting the wide receivers back. Not just Gregory on the D-line, but Neville Gallimore. And it looks like he's going to play his first game of the season as well. So they're going to have their starting D-line that was projected to start the season for the first time this season. And you guys alluded to, Micah Parsons had to fit in at the wrong place for him effectively because of the injuries and the losses they've had along the line. So that can only help strengthen their capabilities. Washington need to win, but Cowboys want to win just to close out the division and then worry about placings. For me, Cowboys have too much, so they'll go to 9-4.
It's exactly what you're saying. Well, you didn't say it earlier on, Mark, but it's the exact same situation with the AFC West. There's so many games in the next few weeks that could potentially, and it probably won't happen, but it could potentially turn the whole division on its head. And that's why this weekend is so interesting in both the NFC East with this game and in the AFC West and in other divisions as well. I think the reality is it's not that Dallas for me will have too much for Washington tomorrow. It'll be guys like Pollard having that X factor for Dallas, both early in the game and late in the game in big plays. So for me, I think I still cannot believe Washington won last week in Vegas. I can see what happened. I appreciate it was a fantastic victory. Ron Rivera is 4-1 against Mr. McCarthy. He'll go 4-2 tomorrow. It's too much for them. I think the Dallas Cowboys need to put up now or shut up. You know, they've got the talent. They've got Dak back after last year. They've got so many weapons on offense. And this defense looks fresh as. They should win this game comfortably. And then the reality is, do you start to rest, boys? I mean, if it was me, I would. I know it's the Dallas Cowboys. You can't. Maybe
No.
Brian can give Gene Slater a wee text and find out the crack. But week 17, week 18, those boys shouldn't be doing a thing. They should be having light training sessions and getting ready for a hell of a slog over the following month.
No.
I think, and look, I think it's moronic putting them out there. Week 17 and 18.
Michael, seeding can still be in play.
Yeah.
If the cards
They're
get
screwed either way.
losses,
Have you seen the seedings in the NFC? They are banjacks either way, man. Banjacks.
Well, no, they could get the first or second seed quite comfortably still, and you know, and to have potentially 2 home games back to back, you got to keep fighting for it.
Let's see what happens.
A couple of things. I think this we talked about. I mentioned earlier, but you know, I like my anniversary talk. This is the 5-year anniversary of Aqib Talib announcing that he was going to beat Harry Douglas's ass for his cheap knee-high block on Chris Harris. Said he was a sorry ass excuse for a receiver, but they shared the same agent, and when they were next together, he beat his ass. Find somebody who'll go to war with you the way Aqib Talib would go to war for his teammate. And I think that's what this game tomorrow is going to be about. It's going to be about who's prepared to do it. And I don't think resting guys is the way to go. I think we have seen in the league over the years, getting hot and staying hot is the way to do it. We've seen too many teams who take the last 2 weeks or the last week off. All of a sudden you go into the playoffs, and the team that found its way somehow into that wild card does a number on you.
I actually forgot we had Aqib Talib on the show during the summer. That was great, Crack Boys as well.
Oh, he was brilliant. He was absolute box office.
When he was talking about bringing his the culture from the hood, basically, wasn't it? It was like, you know, what do I bring to the team? I brought the hood to the team, type of thing. It was like, you know, I'm going to take care of business. It was awesome. He
definitely didn't have a clue what we were saying, no, Mark. He was looking at our listening to our accents, going like, what is going on, boys? What is going on? I love, and I'm so happy I remembered this as an IT teacher. I love this Lions record. 1-10-1. It's like binary. It is literally binary. I hope they don't lose another game this season or lose one more tomorrow and go whatever 11-1. And I don't know. It's just like, you know, Brian, binary. Yeah, you speak, but you know binaries, yeah.
I do.
Peter's communicating in one. Okay. Back to the football. The Lions going up against the Broncos. Broncos 6-6. Column in a day where the Raiders and the Chiefs playing each other. The Chargers are going to be a very difficult game against the Giants. What's your thoughts ahead of this game? Obviously, a very difficult week as well.
Yeah, a really difficult week for the franchise, and that can play an impact. You know, we have seen across any number of in the NFL, you know, when there has been a tragedy at times, or when there's you know, a memorial, it can impact on the way in which teams perform. It's not just in the NFL; that's across sports. So I think that definitely could be a factor, and something the Broncos will have to be aware of. But this is a Lions team which listed 21 of the 53 as not practicing at one point this week. They had an illness that swept the camp on top of the injuries that you already have in week 14. So it's going to be a really beat up Lions team. And it's a Lions team that it got the win against the Vikings. If they were still looking for a win, I think they'd be probably a little bit more dangerous. I think for the Broncos, it is about managing and channeling emotion, but it's about bouncing back after a really, really disappointing offensive outing against the Chiefs. And I haven't exactly been inspired this week. The fact that in the post game, on that kind of the mess up on the third and 2, and then 4th and 2 play, and the Broncos weren't set, and Vic Fangio came out and said there was a little confusion after the game. And then again on Monday, he said, yeah, definitely some miscommunication, some confusion. And then all of a sudden, Pat Shurmur gets up in front of the mic and says, no miscommunication, no confusion. Players just didn't execute. What's going on? Vic Fangio and his OC not on the same page in any way, shape, or form. That is an enormous problem, has been an enormous problem for 2 years now. I don't think it'll be enough to derail the Broncos tomorrow. I'm going to go with the Broncos getting the win.
That type of stuff doesn't come as a surprise to me, Colin. I dealt with Pat Shurmur for 2 years, except he was on the other side saying completely different things to what his offensive coordinator was saying. Yeah, you've touched on the Lions. Like, the situation, even with the Lions trying to build a little bit of momentum on the back of last week's game, it's probably gone in a sense because there's so many injuries there. Hawkinson, who did their tight end, who's probably arguably their best player, it looks like he's out of the game as well. Goff played well in sports last week, but he's still not the long-term solution there. And for the Broncos, the game will be won, but it won't be won, in my opinion, by Teddy Bridgewater. He's underwhelmed. He's only thrown 2 passes, 2 touchdowns in the last 5 games. Javonte Williams, who, you know, you love Colin, I'd imagine he's the kind of guy tomorrow that'll have a great game, and defensively they'll be sound, and they might even get a couple of pick sixes. As long as you said, Colin, as long as the emotional aspect of the game doesn't get too much for them and leave the Lions hanging around into the 4th quarter where you've seen uncanny things happen in games, this should be a cakewalk for the Broncos and a good way to rebound off a tough loss last week against the Chiefs. So with the Raiders playing the Chiefs, yeah, this is a game that you have to win to have at least put yourselves in a position for the next few weeks. So yeah, Broncos to win comfortably.
Michael will correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think in the 13th game that both teams play, the fact that the Lions record is 1-1-0-1 is actually 13 in binary, has a certain poetic...
Really? Yeah. On the week, on everything that's happened, you're doing this to me right now. I actually was going to call you out because I can't remember. I think I actually had a hairline the last time you picked the Broncos, Mark. So I'm looking forward to this. Sorry, I was going back.
Well, I'm just saying it's a nice balance that it's the 13th game and their binary code matches up in relation to it. That's what I'm saying. Look, I meant to say this on the Raiders game earlier. Emotional energy can take it out of you. Like I said, like with the Raiders with the Gruden stuff earlier in the season, obviously what they've gone through with Ruggs as a team and all of these things, that it was an opportunity for them to band together. But that can only work for so long sometimes. After a while, sometimes it exhausts you, it drains you. It actually detracts from the team. It doesn't band together and it doesn't act as a positive momentum. But in the short term, I think sometimes particular events, particular moments can embolden the team. There is almost a spirit of, we are not losing this under any circumstances given what's occurred. I had the Broncos to win this on Monday. I had the Broncos to win it on Tuesday. with the sad news of what's happened to Demaryius Thomas, I think even more so. There is no way in hell's green earth that the Broncos are going to be going out there giving less than 120%. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater might even try and attempt to tackle after an interception this time, guys. That might be an interesting thing to see. But no jokes aside, Broncos are going to win this game, and it's going to be quite emotional, I can imagine, in Mile High.
Emotional in Toronto. I'm not doing great today, boys. I was grand yesterday, like sort of shocked. Now today, I'm like watching videos, watching everyone back. I watched his retirement speech. I'm in bad nick. I never met the man, like, so I can only imagine how people feel over there. It's been a very it hasn't been a great couple of days. And obviously, there's a football match tomorrow. The Broncos are planning a number of different tributes before the game, and there's an 88 decal on the field, and the players are wearing the helmets. The Broncos can't lose this game. You know, that's the way I see it. But in terms of the actual football on the field, Javonte Williams will be the main factor for this team tomorrow. I'd like to think Teddy Bridgewater can throw the ball a few times, Colin, and maybe get a few first downs. And if Pat Shurmur does get a third down and two third down and three, sorry, a fourth down and two fourth down and three, and he's within 40 yards with altitude, maybe Brandon McManus. Now, obviously Brandon McManus is the only person left on that Super Bowl winning team on that roster. And then, I know he want to go out tomorrow and play lights out. So I'm taking the Broncos to win this game tomorrow in a game that they realistically need to win. And for me, the last thing I'll say on this whole thing, but I personally think that he should be, or Demaryius Thomas should be, maybe his induction into the ring of honor should be expedited, Colin. But we'll talk about that maybe in the off season. I'm sure it'll happen next season. Brian, you have a point to make.
Well, it's on Fangio. Like we discussed a couple of weeks ago when they had a couple of surprising results that he didn't expect, probably Chargers and the Cowboys. Is he going to be there next season? And I know you are very adverse to that kind of conversation, but I don't think it's against the realms of possibility. If they finish the season the way they are at the moment, in terms of a few more wins, he could still be there. Having watched some recent coverage when they did beat the Chargers in the dressing room, it looked like all the players were certainly rallying behind them. But if he was to lose this game, I mean, he might as well just walk out the gate and keep on going. I mean, this game is significant now for fans, not just because of the season, but because of the circumstances of this week. If he loses this game, well, then he can run out the gate and some car will probably hit him on the way out, and that'll be the end of him anyway. But
Brian, but the fact that, essentially, 40% of the Lions active roster has been on the injury report this week. I think, if he was to lose, I just, there will be the divisional games ultimately, I think, are what are going to decide Vic Fangio's fate this year. But it is year 3. He is the man who hired Pat Shurmur. He is the man who kept Tom McMahon at special teams. This is Vic Fangio's team. It's up to him now.
Yeah, Vic Fangio's got 5 games left with the Denver Broncos.
I think Vic Fangio, as it stands, is staying on the job next year. I don't think he should, but I think as it stands, the record he currently is on, I think he's staying in the job this year, which is stunning.
To finish with a winning record. He put up a legitimate argument that if he had a better quarterback, we would have went to the playoffs. Go find me a quarterback.
And the whispers have started, Colin. We've seen the mouthpieces saying that already, so we'll get him on during the season. I know Mark wants to move on. I know Mark's beloved Patriots aren't playing this week, so they can't lose or win this week. But let's move on to the Giants against the Chargers. The Giants are 4-8 against the Chargers, who are 7-5. Chargers 7-5. The Chiefs are 8-4. Raiders 6-6. Broncos 6-6. Colin, this division is a lot can change tomorrow. A lot cannot change tomorrow. But a game in which the Chargers need to win against a very difficult opposition in the New York Football Giants.
Well, the Giants are good and solid defensively. The issue, I mean, that's where I see a lot of similarities between the Broncos and the Giants. But the Giants are going to be going to tomorrow, by all accounts, with Jake Fromm at QB. It doesn't sound at all good for Daniel Jones. The word I saw during the week was structural damage. If that is accurate, then they would be crazy to play him again anytime soon, whether we see him this season or not. But structural damage is not good, and Kadarius Toney is out as well. So the offense is just taking such a hit for them, and the Chargers have had a week, I suppose, where they've seen Mike Williams and Chris Harris go onto the COVID list and come off the COVID list. Keenan Allen, it sounds like, is going to miss tomorrow's game, and now Derwin James is likely to miss the game as well. Derwin James is an enormous talent, but just cannot stay healthy, and that's a big issue for the Chargers. I just don't think offensively the Giants are going to have enough to take advantage of, say, somebody like Derwin James missing. And I think that the Chargers will do enough, but I don't think this is going to be like last week where they were able to put up massive points on the Bengals. This Giants defense is better than the Bengals defense, but they just don't have an offense. They don't have a passing offense. They don't have really a running offense, and that's an issue especially in the 2021 NFL.
If ever there was a game that Mark wanted to get out his famous Jesus Christ quote a quarterback, this is the one. Mike Lennon, unfortunately, is going to start a quarterback. Would Fromm made any difference? I mean, there's been a conversation this week, left Fromm play. I mean, what are we going to see from Mike Lennon that we haven't already seen? Keenan Allen's out. He's been confirmed as out, but Mike Williams is going to play. Chris Harris is going to play. Look, Colin, you pretty much summed it up. The Giants offensively can't do anything. I mean, last week's game, as I said, I picked the Giants last week against the Dolphins because I felt the defense would keep them in the game, and they did up to the fourth quarter. They only allowed 10 points. Could I see them doing something similar to the Chargers, who are very consistent? Let's not make it out this team are going to blow teams away. Like, they've been up and down all season. Yeah, I could see them hanging around, but offensively, they won't be able to do anything. The only glimmer of light I could see is potentially Saquon Barkley finally having a big game, because this Chargers defense hasn't been good with the run. They're struggling. I know last week they had a good game, but throughout the season, I'm not going to look at last week's game and put it out there that they've resolved the issues. They're giving up an average of 150 yards a game. But Saquon, when he's played against defenses that have struggled, he still can't do it. So the scary one is no touchdown scored by a Giants wide receiver or running back since the start of October. That says it all for me. Chargers are winning. The line is 9.5. I'd expect them to win by 2 touchdowns. It'll be a very boring game. Chargers win comfortably.
The Chargers have actually improved that run defense over the last 3 or 4 games. Some would say, how could it get any worse?
That's not what we want to hear, Mark.
I'm just giving you all the good news in one go, Brian, in relation to it. I will not bring out my famous Jesus Christ line because it acts as some kind of magnificent reverse curse.
Well, Mark, it's the only hope you have.
I'll save that, Brian. But Colin loves his anniversaries of things, and it's actually notable. The 11th of December, 1998. Okay, so this day, 1998, Bill Clinton was charged formally with 3 impeachment charges by the House Judiciary Committee. The amount of people that should be up on impeachment charges in the New York Giants organization is increasing with every single week. They got rid of Jason Garrett. Freddie Kitchens is making no difference. When Gettleman and Judge get their impeachment charges or just fired, could be sooner rather than later. And why do I also pick 1998, Brian? Well, you know this. That's the last time the Giants ever beat the Chargers, and it ain't changing tomorrow.
I was going to follow up with that, Mark, but you had it.
Yeah. I had it for you, buddy. I had it for you. So the Chargers will win tomorrow, and the wait will continue on further.
There's more chance of my ma winning the All-Ireland for Longford than there is of the Giants beating the Chargers tomorrow. I'm picking the Chargers. Okay.
Do you know, once we're talking about head coaches, sorry, we've got to give a little bit more in this game. While we're talking about head coach, we spoke about Fangio. Joe Judge has completely changed his style of approach in the press conferences over the past week. He's gone from the very abrasive type of press conference to saying a lot of different things, and that strikes me as a guy who knows he's going to need him to save his job now, and he's trying to say all the right things to fool the ownership. I think the fans aren't fooled.
No, nowhere near. Michael, is your mother actually from Longford?
She's a Derry woman.
She's a dairy woman. Okay, so the most incongruous part of that wasn't necessarily her winning the line; it was winning it with Longfield.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Yeah, and for anyone outside of the island of Ireland listening to this, it's very, very unlikely. Let's just say that Miami game last week was like being awake watching the boys. It was
terrible. Terrible.
Jesus wept. Anyway, let's move on to greener times, stronger times. 49ers against the Bengals. Every night, hold on. Every one of us picked the Bengals last week. Just going to check here now if Ireland's Who Day is watching. Not yet. So I'm interested to see if we have a full house. Boys, we have a lot of full houses this week. Again, like I've already got rid of a lot of these, but a lot of full houses. I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen here. 49ers losing in Seattle last week. Bengals 7-5. Colin, this game is in the jungle. Who have you got with the Bengals?
Well, the reason we all went with the Bengals last week was because we believed in their run game. And we had seen Joe Mixon have 160 yards, 120 yards. We had seen the Broncos do a number on the Chargers. But we probably gave too much credit to a Bengals defense that, lest we forget, created the Mike White era. So if we are, if the Jets are chanting his name, it's because this Bengals defense that has been so porous at times. Look, Joe Burrow has incredible heart, incredible guts. He comes back from the ACL injury, takes his place behind that line, and has been really, really good for them. Has an injury last week, stays in the game, but he needs help. He really, really needs help. And Jamar Chase has struggled over recent weeks, and obviously last week Burrow put the ball in his arms, only for it to end up in the arms of a Charger. So it's a tough one, because this game, both teams really need a win. If the 49ers is to stand any chance of getting to the playoffs, they absolutely have to win this. And the Bengals really need to get a victory to bounce back from that disappointment. It is another game where absolutely I can see ways that the Bengals can win this. They have some great receivers. They have Burrow. Mixon, I think, is going to be a game time decision. From what I understand, if he starts, he is a fantastic runner. But I just think that when it comes to the game as it is, I think the issue for the Bengals is going to be that defense. And while I don't have faith in Jimmy G, I believe in Kittle. I believe in the Kyle Shanahan system. I had the 49ers going to the playoffs before the season started, but that is in question now. But I do think they are winning this game.
Can I just say I don't know if the Bengals will have a burp against the 49ers, but whoever burped there, that was lovely.
Who burped?
I thought it was you, Brad.
No, I stepped away. I needed to slip off for a few seconds.
Here, it happens to everyone, but it happens to everyone. It's gone.
I've lost my train of thought now after hearing that. This game for me is actually the best game of the weekend. It's like two teams that are going in the right direction. We've talked about some of the hopeless teams, and they're, whoever wins essentially is probably, give or take, probably banking a playoff position, because the 49ers win, and with the wild card situation and having seen the Vikes lose, it's a chance for them to move on and push up the table. And if Cowboys take care of business, that helps them as well. But for me, I'm going to go with the Bengals here. I said, despite last week's performance, what impressed me mostly about last week, despite the loss, was they were 24-0 down, and teams who've gone to the playoffs in the past at 24-0 down have still kind of succumbed to a more of a excruciating defeat. They came back 24-22, and then the fumble in the third quarter kind of put the game away. So for me, if Burrow reacts well to that injury last week, going up against another boss, as it happens, 2 weeks in a row. Having been teammates with both of them in Ohio State before he moved on to LSU. Be interested to see how that goes. For me, Bengals win a high-scoring game.
Yeah, it's interesting from a team perspective and a fan perspective. I think this game's going to be viewed very differently. Like from a team perspective, as Brian alludes to, both these teams are close to the playoffs. It's nip and tuck. It's going to be a really exciting, exhilarating matchup. Both hoping to rely upon their run games, and there's some nice little connections. Nick Bosa and Joey Bosa. Nick. Sorry, trying to remember which Bosa brother it is. Nick Bosa and Joe Burrow actually know each other well, good friends from Ohio State days and stuff. So there's a nice little connection there where they're chasing after each other for the whole game or trying to outthink or outfox each other on the field. Bengals have been suffering with injuries. There's still a couple of injuries along their O-line, which are going to be day-to-day. Riley Rife and Trey Hopkins, actually, the two that may not play, and they've had enough trouble, I would say, in terms of consistent pass protection. So they don't want more inconsistency along that offensive line. But from a fan's perspective, just bear this in mind. I mean, if you've supported either of these teams for a long time, your mind has to go back to the only 2 times the Bengals made the Super Bowl. They were both times against the 49ers, and both times only one score in it. They got their hearts broken in both situations. I mean, the second one, if I remember, was the famous John Candy game, where Joe Montana, with the ball, with the requirement to drive 89 yards to win the game, relaxed his team by saying, "Hey, isn't that John Candy in the stands?" And then just promptly Joe called his way to the game-winning drive. So fans will remember it. Is a game 30-odd years ago going to have any impact on this game tomorrow? Of course not. But from a fan perspective, it's almost like, are the Bengals cursed against the 49ers? Is it never meant to be? I think the 49ers, frankly, they laid a complete mess recently, of course, but they need it, and they have the talent and they have the capability to win this game. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a really, really good game, but I'm going to go with the 49ers. I think they are going to get into the playoffs, and I think they've got enough momentum to get there, which is good for the Broncos when they win. They'll have the same record as the Bengals guys. So the 7th wildcard slot keeps flying around the place.
Fair point, yeah.
I love how we sidetracked in. Is it the T-shirt or what is it? Is it the color orange?
No, honestly,
it's great. Happy days, yeah. Happy days.
I'm just saying it's a valid point because I think that we've talked about it. The battle for those last couple of wildcards, especially in the AFC, is going to be so tight and so tense that all of these games have key impacts upon them.
Is Deebo Samuel playing for the 49ers?
Sorry, Michael. Mark's alluded to Bosa and to Burrow as well, and I touched on it as well. Bosa's 12 sacks this year for 49ers. No one comes close to him on, you look down after, I think it's 4 or 5. I mean, if he doesn't play, they don't tend to get it together. So he's crucial to that team tomorrow.
Is Deebo playing tomorrow? There was a question in there.
No, not likely. No, I think he's gone for a few weeks.
The 49ers last week, boys, were okay. Can I?
It's all happening tonight.
Oof.
They were rough, Michael. Yeah.
I was just going to say that, but the 49ers last week, Jimmy G had 299 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. And for me, well, clearly it wasn't good enough. They lost the game. They lost the game to which is now a 4-win football team in Seattle, albeit they were playing like Man United in any cup game. Oh, we got to beat these ones. I don't think they'll get it going tomorrow. Jimmy G and George Kittle worked very well last week, especially in the 3rd and 4th quarter. But I think the Bengals, last week, 41-22, getting beat big time. When we all baked them up, will really play into the hands of Cincinnati. They need to win this game to go 8-5 and really push some sort of momentum in a division, quite frankly. Who wants number 1 pick? Like the Patriots are number 1 in the AFC at the minute. Fair play to them. But the Bengals, like anybody else with the talent they have, should be looking at this division and going, this conference and going, Jesus, boys, here we go. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can see the Bengals winning tomorrow, and quite frankly, I can see the Bengals winning comfortably tomorrow, and that means that the Bengals are going to lose comfortably tomorrow. I think Joe Burrow will have a day, 3 or 4 passing touchdowns, and Jamar Chase 2 receiving touchdowns. And Mark's laughing already, but they
I'm,
haven't
I'm
been sort of.
I'm laughing at you acknowledging your reverse curse capability, Michael. That's what I'm laughing at.
And yes, and I am sorry for the Bengal fans, but I've been more conservative than Richie Sunak tonight on this show, trying to get as many puns in tonight as possible.
I would put this down arguably as one of the biggest games of the season for the Bengals. Like, you've got the Browns playing the Ravens. One of them is going to lose a game. One of them is dropping off. So if they win this game, they're well within the chance of winning the division.
Can I just say, though,
Absolutely.
losing to the 49ers by 1 score in a Super Bowl, can't relate. Got to lose by 7, 8, 9.
Whew. Well, I'd like to thank Brian for bringing the dog into my conversation. I'm going to bark the next time Brian has a point before I make my pick. Woof, woof. Okay. We've covered the Browns already. That would have been great. If we were going into the Browns and there was a dog there, it would have been good. What's the dog's name, Brian?
Daisy.
Lovely. This game.
I thought you intentionally done that to say that they were rough last week. I actually thought that was planned, Michael. That was comedy gold then. Brilliant.
Comedy gold in a minute. The Bills, the hell way up Monday night. Like, I don't want to go into this conversation about the Bills because Mark's going to, we can talk about the Patriots. No, we're not talking about the Patriots because it's the bye week. But Josh Allen on Monday night, albeit the weather was atrocious, you have to ask, will this team ever get it over the line? Genuinely, with the talent that they had over the last few years, will they get to the next level? And this is a game column in which they need to show that they can. They really do. To fall to 7-6 or to go to 8-5, this is a huge game for the Buffalo Bills against a 9-3 Tampa Bay team in Florida. What a game this is tomorrow.
Yeah, it's an enormous game, and I think it's going to be really interesting because I would expect very different game plans to what we saw last week. The Bucks, and we talked about it on Monday night's show, I said there is nobody better at sensing blood in the water than Tom Brady, and he saw last week just how the Falcons, you can get at their secondary. So he threw and threw and threw, including a pick six right at the end of the half. But that's a Brady just he is not impacted, I think, on anything outside of what he believes, and he's going to throw the ball, and that's what he continued to do. And then he doesn't let a pick impact on him in any way, shape, or form. It's just, that happened, we go again. That'll be different for them because the Bills are much better in the secondary than the Falcons were, but they have lost Tre'Davious White, which is a huge loss because he is such a good player. So I do think you will see more of Lenny running the football than you have maybe over the past couple of weeks, because Brady, like Belichick, he wants to win. And I think the worry for the Bills, there is lots to like about the Bills, but the worry I have about them is you can bully the Bills and you cannot bully this Bucs team. And I think that's the big difference. So I am interested to see what the Bills try and do against this Bucs team, because the Bills don't have much of a running game, and they now have to go against a Tampa Bay team that, at times teams have been able to run at them. At other times, Vita Vea is just a one-man wrecking machine, even when he loses a tooth. So this is going to be fascinating to see how these teams approach it. This is the Bucs' most difficult game of their remaining schedule. They are blessed that their run-in is pretty kind to them. But Brady looks like a man who, is on a bit of a mission to try and be kind of first in terms of yards and touchdowns. So I expect him to continue on that. And I think that the Bucs are going to win this, and that will leave the Bills needing to get a win going to Foxborough.
Yeah, I said earlier in the week I felt this would be a very difficult game for the Bills. That thought this is prime for the Bucks to win and essentially wrap up the division in large parts for the Patriots, because it's a significant weekend. Patriots aren't playing. Bills go against a very difficult team, Super Bowl champions. I mean, coming off a game on Monday night, I'll be interested to see where we are coming toward fourth quarter of this game, because having played in difficult situation on Monday night weather-wise, and then going down and playing in the heat, how, I suppose, what energy levels will there be sapped come the fourth quarter? You know, a significant game. That was a tough game on Monday night. Whoever won that game on Monday night, you know, both defenses would have walked away from that game knowing they were in a game. And then they're going to go against a very expansive offense. And Gronk, since Gronk's come back, this team is just like, they've been lit up again. It's very similar to what we saw last season. Yeah, I've read reports and we've had conversations. This kind of is a better game for the Bills in many ways, because, you know, their strength is that they can go against teams and, you know, blow for blow, and they'll score 30 points, but they may do, but I still feel that the Bucks will have enough in the end. So for me, Bucks win a high scoring game.
Yeah, I mean, like, Josh Allen's going to have a lot more fun throwing the ball down in Tampa than he certainly did on Monday night. And Brian, I think you alluded to on the TNF Club, actually, you know, the whole pressure of going from a Monday night to a short week game already, and the conditions they played in, and the cold, and the energy zapping now right out into the sun, has big impacts on stamina, on conditioning, obviously, especially late in the game. What worries me, if I'm the Bills fan, is Dane Jackson filling in for Tre'Davious White is likely to be seen often. Bills fans obviously hope he steps in front of a ball and gets another pick six this week off Brady, but he's likely to be targeted. And they are going to be missing Starlo Tuluai, who's, you know, a fantastic run stopper. So there's potential risks in the secondary. They didn't have a great run defense at times, obviously, on Monday Night Football, and now it's got weaker, and they're going up against the Bucks, who seem to have activated playoff Lenny a couple of weeks earlier this season than ever before. So the matchup doesn't work in their favor. Of course, they're going against the nemesis that is Tom Brady for them, 32-3 record. He's thrown for 70 touchdowns against the Bills. He doesn't mind playing them. The Bucks are 5-0 at home. I absolutely, when you've got Josh Allen, Stefan Diggs, Cole Beasley, you've got a dynamic, explosive offense there. You can absolutely never write them off. But the Bucks seem to be getting that consistency back. Gronk, as the guys said, had come back in. They'll get Antonio Brown back in another couple of weeks. They seem healthier than they have been in a while. The momentum train keeps building, and I think they're going to add another win tomorrow.
Just for the sake of St. Stephen's Day, for Boxing Day, I would love the Bills to win tomorrow, because the Bills play the Patriots at 6 o'clock on the 26th. I actually don't think that can be flexed into an SNL. It can be flexed to a late spot, but it can't be flexed to a late spot, which is a win-win for us. There's some great Christmas games coming up, and we'll preview them in due course. But the Bills obviously went into 7-5 after losing to the Patriots, so it's all in the Patriots' favor at the minute. But if the Bills were to win this game, what a statement after Monday night! Like, genuinely for them. But at the end of the day, they probably won't win this game, because they're going up against Tom Brady, and he scored 4 touchdowns last week, albeit an interception. And I'm just reading the comment there. I'll try my best. And obviously, lads, when you have Fournette as well, it's very, very difficult, especially in Tampa Bay. The reality is, Tom Brady can probably throw us to Gronk on 50 to 60% of his drives, and he's probably going to be effective. The Bucks are going to win this game comfortably for me, which means that the Bills might win for them. But I don't believe in the Bills anymore at the minute, and it really pains me to say it. I've given them a lot of hope and a lot of thought over the last couple of seasons on this podcast and on this show, but I fail to see how they can get over the line if they can't beat the Patriots at home, albeit it was very difficult weather conditions. But if they can't get down the field when they're at the 20-yard line and score a touchdown, boys, at certain points, they won't go to Tampa Bay and they won't beat the Bucs on Sunday. I think Tampa Bay will win this comfortably, and that probably finishes that division for the year. which is by the Bill standards extremely. Take away the Patriots, that would be unacceptable, and you would have to question Sean McDermott down the stretch if that was to happen. No, genuinely, if it was me, I'd be livid if I was a Bills fan. Seriously.
But I feel like I want to reminisce on the fact that your love for the Bills has died somewhere along the way, because ever since we've been doing this show, they've been your new second team through most of this. Generally, I will say this: I am a little bit surprised. I don't feel as strongly that the Bucs are going to walk it, but I am surprised we're all unanimous on this one, because I think there's definitely an argument for the Bills. So it's just, yeah, it's almost like the kiss of death. Definitely being made there. Brian, you're on mute.
Sorry, I had to do that because Michael's worried about the dog. No, I'm with Michael on this. I actually agree 100%. I know the Patriots have had a great season. I mean, we touched it on Thursday night. At week 5, Mark, all tongue in cheek, you were suggesting, will we win 9 games? For the Bills, who a lot of people had potentially put up as let's go to playoffs, let's certainly return to the championship game. And look, who knows? It might happen again. But look, the division isn't gone yet, but if they lose this game, realistically, it probably is. So for them to be in this situation where they'll be scrapping for a wild card, yeah, I agree with Michael. I think that people in there will have had high expectations. It's not going to lead to anybody getting firing. In fact, the offensive coordinator is probably going to go on to a head coaching role next year somewhere, Brian Dable anyway.
Brian Dable is definitely going to chance, but sorry, I will say I don't think the division's over because the Patriots have to play the Colts and the Bills in the next 2 games. They could easily lose both of those. And as I keep coming back to that, Miami loss screws the Patriots up on the tiebreaker. So I wouldn't say it's a done deal in relation to it. I love the other Brian's comment, though, he's just made there. Remember who was 7-5 at this point last season? It's a great point. The Super Bowl champions were. Tian's comment is something interesting as well, Michael. But
go on Twitter after the show and type in Sean McDermott.
But in fairness, the Bills fans have to bear in mind as well. Like, they've had a lot of years where they've been nowhere.
Thanks for commenting. Yes, exactly. But Brian, and as you said, for them to then get over the hump, albeit with Brady leaving New England, for them then to go down so quickly because of the Patriots they're not 10-2. They're a game behind them, and they beat them on Monday night.
I mean, I don't think Bills fans are going to be that short-sighted. What were they doing before Sean McDermott? Nothing. They weren't in the running. They weren't in the playoffs. They weren't developing a decent side on all sides of the ball with depth, with a good defense and a good offense. Like, they can have a bad season every now and then again. And now what we're talking about is this being a bad season for the Bills, and they're at 7-5. If you had gone back 5 years even, 4 years even, and said to a Bills fans, hey, you can have a bad season, you'll be going 7-5, they would have jumped through a table for you twice over and thought it was their happiest day of their lives.
And they probably would either way anyway, jump through the table.
Right. I think this is a strange season as well. That's what we have to remember. This is a season that's been more disrupted by COVID than last year. This is a season where in the off season, the cap got cut and teams had to try to respond accordingly. And this is a season where, we're seeing even a greater level of parity than we usually do. We're talking about teams with losing records as we enter week 14 are still in with a shot of the playoffs. So it has been a very odd year. I think making decisions based solely on this year, unless you're in the Urban Meyer level of ineptitude and just awfulness, is the wrong way to go. I think if you're looking at it, if it's been 2-3 years of this, absolutely, but one bad year in what's been a really strange year, I don't know if that's the way, but I do think it does highlight for the Bills the importance of, they have so many great receiving threats, but if your line isn't up to it, and if your line can be bullied, that's a problem. That's the core. That's what you have to set, and then you can build from there. But in fairness to McDermott, he is the guy who put a plan in place for Josh Allen went and got him, got a guy who could play in the conditions in Buffalo and developed him up to this point. So I think you've got to give McDermott some slack, and you see what happens next year with the Bills. But we're saying this: the Bills win tomorrow, the Bills win in Foxborough, and all of a sudden, everybody's jumping off of tables.
They're the third. They're ranked as the third worst run team in the league, and inevitably, if you want to go to Super Bowl, you need to address that. And if there is a situation with the head coach, let's bear in mind GM Brandon Bean. They both came from Carolina. They're both joined at the hip. If one is going, you'd expect the likelihood to both be going. I think it's madness that we're talking in this manner anyway.
We can't be talking like that. I mean, they've only had 2 bad games this season. The Colts game they didn't turn up in, and yeah, I mean, like the Jags. Anyone losing to the Jags, I mean, that's a bad game. Other than that, they have fought bloody hard. They've won a lot of games. They've been there or thereabouts in any game they've lost. They were there or thereabouts on Monday night. The Patriots just out-executed them at the right points in the game. Something that made me very happy. But still, I executed them in that particular point. But there's only been 2 games that they haven't really been there for. So,
no, Mark, I'm not going to agree with that in fairness. Teams are finding ways to deal with Josh Allen. The Steelers dealt with him comfortably in week 1. Teams know they've no run game. We deal with him, we're sorted. There's no alternative. So
sorry, I mean, don't get me wrong. I agree that they don't have a run game. They haven't had a run game for several years. They didn't have a run game last year, and we said, they've got to fix it. They didn't fix it. I think I alluded to this before. I mean, ever since they ran Marshawn Lynch out of bloody Buffalo, it's almost like it's been a curse left behind. What was it? Pirates of the Caribbean, leaving a Davy Jones curse as he left. I mean, they even brought in LaShawn McCoy, of course, and LaShawn McCoy was fizzled out terribly in respect of it. But no, they're still a really good side, like a really, really good side. They're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to have aspirations of going further. Michael, don't lose heart. Don't lose the love affair. Keep the love burning strong. Love lingers on. Love lifts us up where we belong. All you need is love. Just keep thinking it.
I just love how I said one thing about McDermott, and it's like holy, like oh my god, like it's just turned into a whole discussion.
Wait, and Black Monday comes.
Look, it's disappointing for the Bills. Like I was sitting, not even a Bills fan, watching the game on Tuesday morning, cup of coffee, going, come on, I got there, but again, it is what it is. Big game on Sunday. Really looking forward to that. I'm presuming that game's on Sky. Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Okay.
It has to be.
Has to be on Sky because just you'd like to hope that game's on Sky. Okay. Anyway.
Okay.
Talking about big games, we have got the 9-3 Green Bay Packers going up against the Chicago Bears. The Bears. Well, one field will be there, and that's Lambeau Field. Colin, what are your thoughts on this intriguing Sunday night football matchup where the Packers are hoping to go to 10-3 and the Bears are looking to get a win?
Well, we went from talking about Brian McDermott and a coach who, no matter what happens, shouldn't lose his job, to a coach in Matt Nagy who, no matter how it plays out the rest of the season, he has to go. Saw some tweets from Bill Zimmerman over the course of the week. So just to put this in perspective, Matt Nagy's passing offense is averaging 173.8 yards per game. That is 32nd in the NFL, dead last. By comparison, Sid Luckman from 43 to 47 averaged 189.5 passing yards per game. That's during the Second World War, lads. That's how far back, right? So Matt Nagy's offense is literally less efficient than the Bears passing offense in the 1940s. In 2021, where everything favors the QB, everything favors the offense, Matt Nagy has somehow contrived between Justin Fields and Andy Dalton to put out a passing offense that is worse than the 1940s. And some Bears fans didn't like it last week when I had to go at the O-line, but the reality is it just has not been good enough. Justin Fields is going to come back in tomorrow. How much of tomorrow is he going to spend running for his life? Like we have talked about the shambles that is there in Houston. And in fairness, that's not on Dave Culley, but the shambles that is the utter disaster. I mean, it's beautiful from space how bad Urban Meyer is, and yet Matt Nagy is still a worse head coach. The sooner the Bears can get rid of him, the better for the league, the better for everyone. There are people who, don't even know the NFL exists. There are yet to be discovered tribes who could tell you Matt Nagy is an awful head coach. The sooner he's gone, the better. The Packers are winning this.
When this season's over and the Bears finish with a losing record, it'll be the only year in which Matt Nagy's coached the Bears that he actually finished with a losing record. So might be slightly bit harsh, bearing in mind they have been to the playoffs. If Rodgers wins
173 yards passing.
The Patriots threw three plays. They threw for 3 plays.
Yeah, but they won, Brian. That's the problem. They actually won.
And with those 2 completions, they were more than 10%. More than 10% of average Matt Nagy game on 2 passes.
They had a big
storm against Buffalo, and more than 10%.
Right, Colin, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you on Matt Nagy. But all I would say is bear in mind, when they got him, he was a hot commodity in terms of head coaching opportunities. He'd come from the Chiefs. Eric Bieniemy has fallen into that situation now. He hasn't got a head coaching role out of the Chiefs yet. Probably may do this season. But it's like they all come from the Andy Reid, circle of trust in terms of being the next coach. It hasn't materialized for him. He doesn't make changes. We've joked about during the season, unfortunately, where we've seen him make very silly decisions during games. And Justin Fields is coming in now really as a re-energizing of the situation in terms of the offense, because the offense has been quite poor, and we saw it last week with Andy Dalton. On the Packers side, if Rodgers wins tomorrow, he equals a record. Do we know what that record is? He ties Brett Favre for 23 wins against the Chicago Bears. He's now getting to that stage. He's won 5 in a row. They've won 10 games at home in a row. The Packers are winning this. Sunday Night Football, the reason why it wasn't flex, Michael, is because this is one of the most long-standing rivalries in the NFL. If you recall last season, they actually, because it was the 100th year, they didn't go to Super Bowl champions. The opening night, they went with the Bears Packers. It's huge for them. NBC will still get the numbers.
Two esteemed franchises, yeah. Of course.
Yeah, the Packers are going to win. The Packers are going to roll on. Unfortunately for Bears fans, it's a difficult season. It doesn't help with the situation in terms of trying to move on next season because they don't have any number 1 pick to use. Packers comfortably.
I'm a bit disgusted that Bears fans were giving Colin a hard time about criticizing their offensive line. The Bears' offensive line is like a very famous book that was written by Ralph Ellison. And if any of you don't recognize the reference, Ralph Ellison wrote the famous book called The Invisible Man. That's basically what the offensive line has been this year. I mean, that's a direct cause for why their passing offense has been so poor. Frankly, bring back Mitch Trubisky might be a cry you could hear in terms of his offensive output exceeded a number of the performances by the Bears this season. For a team that in the offseason we had to be subjected to a complete mantra of they just needed the quarterback, they've drafted Justin Fields, this team's going to go places. I mean, we, for years, by the way, guys, used to give out, all I used to hear was, the Patriots are lucky because they play in the AFC East and they've got 3 bad teams. Who exactly is good in the NFC North? You've got the Lions, you've got the Bears, and you've got the schizophrenic Vikings. Now, I know the Vikings did win on Thursday night.
They're unbeaten in the last 7 days, the Detroit Lions, to be fair enough. Let's put that out there. Sorry,
the Lions have won a game. The Lions have won a game, that's true. But, the schizophrenic Vikings, I mean, when Dalvin Cook's running for 200 yards and you got people saying, geez, you'd have to be an idiot to think they would win this game. There's no way in hell they're winning this game. Things like that come out that you kind of realize the Packers have it made in that division, in the opposition they have to go up against. I'm not dwelling on it. It's 10-3. The Packers are winning. It's that simple.
Sorry, Michael. One final point. Alan Robinson, Colin has been pleading with him to find a new team for the past year. But I'd be interested to see where that leaves him coming into this off-season, because he hasn't had a very good season. He hasn't fulfilled on what happened last year. I don't know, because he's not getting the ball enough, or he's been injured. He has been injured quite a lot. So maybe his stock has come down. So that might help another team come the off-season, because they won't have to give up as much. I'm sure, is he free agent? I know he signed a tender, so he potentially could be a free agent. So if they lose him, again, the struggles continue. Sorry, Michael.
No, it's fine. I'm taking the Bears in this game.
What? No way. No, you're not.
I'm picking the Bears. The Bears will land at Austrian Straubel International Airport in Green Bay. I think they'll be able to do that. I think in terms of will they get to the stadium, I'm not sure. I'm not taking the Bears again. I meant to say I'm taking the Bears. Didn't mean to say the game. It was meant to be a joke. While Mark was talking, I made a list of things that were more likely the Bears win. Colin winning the Rose of Tralee for Abu Dhabi. Brian getting into the car and driving to Donegal. Or Mark getting curtains for the back window. Those are 3 things that are more likely. I think it's, and this will start a whole discussion point, even though it's the end of the show. I think it's borderline moronic putting Justin Fields in tomorrow. He's clearly not fully fit. I understand. I understand the situation with Andy Dalton. I think Justin Fields should be given more time to heal up. There's still 5 more games. Maybe bring him in week 16, week 17, maybe week 18 when nobody gives a damn, to be quite frank. This game for the Bears, Jesus wept, boys. I mean, like, come on. Like, they have not got a chance of winning this game. Don't stay up. Record the game. I feel for Bears fans, you will come again. And eventually, maybe by the time I've got 3 or 4 wins and stuff. But it's not happening on Sunday Night Football. And I'll be in Chicago next week. So I love the Bears organization. And I think Justin Fields is the next prodigal son.
But genuinely, Michael, the NFL would be better if the Bears were competitive. This is a storied franchise. This is a franchise who've been around for so long. Their fans are long suffering. There is nobody on this show who has an issue with the Bears. Okay, the issue is with, I think, the manner in which the Bears have performed this season. It's been a huge disappointment. Everybody would like to see the Bears do well. I think they are deserving of it. I just don't think they are ever going to improve under Matt Nagy's leadership.
I just wanted to say as well, and I meant to put it in the
sorry. Pace. Don't let
Ryan Pace.
Absolutely. I mean, look, Howie is delighted that Ryan Pace exists because it means that people forget that he picked Jalen Reagor ahead of Justin Jefferson. We should at least mention that once a month on the show.
I agree with what you're saying about the Bears. I personally think a more competitive Bears team is good for the league. The one thing I was actually going to say, and I have it written down here, I meant to say it, in terms of scores, the Ashes isn't back on until 2 a.m. on Wednesday. This game will be a cricket score, so an early cricket score. That was my whole line for this game, but it never happened. Yeah,
I believe you can start reaching out to teams from week 16 now to potentially interview, whether it's a head coach or a general manager, to someone within the office that they want them to interview. The Bears would be well, to start making changes now, giving them a little bit of a leg up on the other teams, because other teams won't make that move as early as others, because potentially they could be going for a playoff situation. I put the Broncos in that. They're not going to fire Fangio before the end of the season because there's still a lot to play for. The Bears won't. Gives the Bears an opportunity.
I did not mean to click on that.
He has marks from being in the back garden without any curtains.
I don't need it.
Michael, put Deco's point back up there. He went very quickly off that one. Oh, he's got a mute. Come on.
I can't put that back.
We're after midnight. Surely you can put that up.
Okay, here, boys.
The comment was Matt Nagy has someone's nude pics, Brian.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter if he has Pace's nude pics, because Hale and Pace are going very soon. Anyway, the 2 of them will be gone at the end of the season.
Hale and Pace, Jesus Christ.
Michael doesn't get that. He doesn't even remember that program.
What's the bet this week?
Go for it, Brian.
The bet this week. If anybody wants to get rich this weekend, they should go elsewhere. But I think these teams are all going to win. And it's not going to give you much of a payback. But if you want some safety, go with these. Titans, Chargers, Broncos, Packers, Seattle. Titans to beat the Jags, Chargers to beat the Giants, the Broncos to beat the Lions, the Packers to beat the Bears, and the Seahawks to beat the Texans. I think you'll probably get about 5-2, give or take.
Yes, and we have a separate segment coming out tomorrow with Sully from Matchbook. One thing that I did say to Sully was I fancy Denver minus 10.5 on the line because I think Javonte Williams will run hoops through the Detroit Lions. Have we any final words before we get out of here, boys?
Very quickly, couple of weird lines actually in the betting. The Browns, I know they're at home, but they're actually given to, they've got 2.5 points, 3 points in some places. And the 49ers are only getting a point. So a bit strange there, but hey.
I thought the Bengals would be favourites, Mark.
What's going on?
Nothing from Mark. While there are, there have been some games that we have, gone, kind of across the board. I am really intrigued to see that Washington Cowboys game, that Bengals 49ers game, and as well the Bucks Bills. We may have all gone with the Bucks, but that is one where Brian rightly pointed out. The Bills have to do something, so expect a big performance. There will be a surprise. There'll be some game that we're talking about on Monday night where we all picked a certain team and they haven't done it. Can't wait to see what that is. But another enjoyable evening, lads.
Yeah, I should have made a point. Once I picked the Bucks, I really hope the Bills win.
All this talk about the Bucks tonight, as we say in the North, get her Buck now, and that was in relevance to the Tampa Bay
Bucks and a few Bills, huh?
A few Bucks and a few Bills, and a wee swell in Belfast. Boys, enjoy Week 14. Irish NFL show on.
I feel like that GIF of Robert Kraft where the lads are talking over his head and he's no idea. It's like that with the betting segment, and it's like that whatever you were just talking about. I'm just looking, going, what is going on?
You're down in the PROC, yeah. So
I am, and hello to the Irish Titans who apparently saw me earlier on. I didn't get to say hello. Hopefully the next time I'm back home.
And to the man in Donegal off license with the Jacksonville Jaguars beanie. The only thing I have to say to you is, well, two things. One, we should have said hello, and secondly, why? On that note, have a nice weekend, folks. Enjoy Week 14. It's all fun.